I represent a company called InMobi. We did co-found it about 7 years ago back in Asia. And we've been running this organization and riding the wave of mobile for about good 7 years. We reach about 1.2 billion users across the world. We're a mobile ad network. We're live in about 170 countries and physical operations in about 30 of them. That's pretty much all that you're going to hear about InMobi today. What I'm going to actually share is key insights, basis, different experiences that we are seeing in different parts of the world, and what that insights actually mean for everyone in this room. So with that, let me just delve right into the slides. We're actually no longer in the mobile-first world. We're in the mobile-only world. I think statements summarizes all of what we've been hearing since morning and what we're going to hear for the later part of the day. What's interesting is, but 2 weeks ago when I put this slide, and yesterday, a big change that I observed. One of the largest retailers in India, which is the e-commerce player, actually shut down their PC website and the mobile website. They actually announced themselves to go mobile only or app only. Now, it's a very big change for a country that has completely leapt on the whole PC era or the online era. And the kind of innovation that it is actually bringing in are dramatically different. There are different speeds. The smartphone penetration is 80% in UK and North America, 65% in different countries. But 50% of the planet's subscribers are actually in Asia. 30% of which, or 30% of the overall population, lives in India and China alone. These two countries have about 25% and 45% penetration of mobile internet. What that means? That means that roughly 500 million plus consumers are going to get connected to the internet for the very first time through their mobile. That's almost bigger than the size of Europe and many other countries and continents that you can imagine. We've all seen different speeds. We've seen the innovation that the different speeds bring onto the system. Now, it's clear. I think we're talking about 3G, 4G, 5G. You can download a movie in less than 43 seconds. You can watch the games. You can browse the entire television. You can do a bunch of stuff. I'm going to talk about one single innovation that I have observed myself in China in the last 4 or 5 weeks. We're all familiar with WeChat, right? How many of us have heard of WeChat, which is the largest, it's much bigger than WhatsApp. The simple mechanism to make a friend on the WeChat is not to enter the ID, is not to enter the phone number, is to actually look at the QR code, scan the QR code, and the person becomes your friend. You instantaneously add that person onto your friend list. Now, why this is important? Why we are talking about a contact lens entry of the user? 2 reasons. A, the connection speeds are slow, so you're not talking about a lot of data exchange. Second, people are not literate. People cannot read and write and type what you are actually telling them. So clearly, you're talking about a set of innovation that are actually originating out of a place where people are, some of the basic things that we take for guaranteed in the Western world are actually not the one that you can take for guaranteed. And if you want to be relevant for roughly 500 million new internet users, you need to really think about the innovations that you can bring into the environment and see how that can be relevant. There are different speeds. Let me give a couple of other examples of mobile payments. Now, in InMobi, we do a lot of advertisements on commerce. Almost everyone who does anything on mobile commerce works with InMobi for advertising. We all have also heard of the evolution of the mobile payments in different parts of the world. I make an assertion today that mobile payments are actually innovating from Africa to the US. It's actually reverse innovation that is going on in the mobile payment space. For about over 7 years, M-Pesa in Kenya has been a reality. It controls about 30-35% of the country's GDP, and people all deal with mobile-based payments and mobile-based transaction. In China, you're actually talking about less than 15% of the transactions originating from credit card. 40% transaction originates from WePay and JDPay and Alipay and those kind of wallets, and about 45% of the transactions actually emerge from cash on delivery. Now, what does that actually mean? That actually means that a generation that has actually leapt the whole concept of taking out the credit card, entering the numbers, and all the checks and balances that needs to come with it. So you're actually dealing with, and incidentally, we don't have the numbers here, but let me just highlight. Ad to conversion ratio, which means showing somebody an ad to the products that get added to the cart, to the checkout that happens after the cart addition. The difference between the mobile-based conversion rates in the US and the mobile-based conversion rates in Asia is 1:10. The average order value may be 10:1, but conversion rates are 1:10. That means Asia is as lucrative a market for mobile commerce as US is, or let me say US was. Because clearly this generation is going to leap over the whole PC phenomena and do things on mobile the way it has never been done before in a very different way. This is my favorite slide. I mean, we operate in so many countries. In UK, the most favorite question that we get asked of agencies is, what are your omni-channel solution? How are you looking to track people across different channels, and how are you looking to make the informed decision based on what users are doing on one channel and the other channel? I actually make an assertion that probably 2 years from now or 3 years from now, nobody is going to actually ask about it. You're going to only say from an omni-channel to a mobile-only channel. We see that already happening, and we believe that trend will catch up very, 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 very soon. Already, I think some guy in the morning was actually stating that there are 70% of the traffic and about 20% of their revenue actually come from mobile. Now, 70% of the traffic already comes from mobile. It's going to only take about probably less than a year or two to make that 70% complete 100%, and then you're going to probably not care about PC. You're going to care about the PC because you're going to pick up a lot of data signals from that and make the informed decisions, but you're not going to actually care about the PC from the whole interaction mechanism perspective. I think we've talked about the big data, so I think I'm preaching to the choir here. There are a number of different data points that one is getting exposed to, one is collecting over the period of time, which is helping you make the informed decision. Devices. It's one of my favorite slides. As soon as the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus came, the sale of tablet dropped. Samsung Galaxy S6 is kind of putting bullet in the head of tablets already. So what is it? I mean, just when we started to learn what the tablets are going to look like and what the tablet behaviors are going to work, the tablets are already on their way out, and the phablets are on their way in. It only makes the life more complicated for different people. Now, in the same space where you're actually dealing with phablets and the large devices that you're dealing with, imagine those same large screen devices coming in for less than $60 in the country. Less than $60, which I'm sure we spend on one night dinner with our client, or maybe more than that. There are close to about 100 million devices that are getting sold in the next 2 years in that price range with that big screen in the markets. What experience you can deliver to your customers is only left to your own imagination. Now let's talk about some of the other user trends that we are very, very actively seeing in the market. Our life started from search in the PC. It is actually moving entirely to display. Various numbers do prove it, that people are not starting by searching on mobile. people are actually starting by visually discovering the different products and the different services that they are getting exposed to. Text is given way to visual. Look at yourself. I mean, Facebook made this big change about 2 years ago when they started to increase the size of image from this small thumbnail to now almost occupying 60% of the entire screen. You're actually moving away from text-based approach to completely visual approach, which is sticky, which is much more visual, which is much more emotionally appealing, and which allows a marketeer or a merchant to grab the attention of a consumer much, much faster. Gone are the days where you could write a nicely written copyright and copy and ask the consumer to read it. You have probably less than, I think somebody in the morning with the social was telling, this is the way we browse. Goodbye to well-written content and hoping to be able to catch the attention through the user's behavior in this way. Clutter is giving way to curation. If you look at typical products or the SKUs that any merchant carries, be it images, be it video, be it text message, be it small snippet video, anything, you're talking about millions and billions of data elements which are there in those catalogs. How are you going to actually present all of that to the consumer? Does not matter what amount of data that you have about those consumers. Does not matter how much behavioral sciences have you applied to understand what that user may actually want. You still need to apply huge sciences for curating the content, because at the end of the day, you're dealing in a 3-second economy. You're dealing in an economy where you probably only have 3 to 4 seconds to grab the consumer's attention. And you don't want that consumer to actually go in a wild world searching for your product in a 3 to 4 second time frame that you are actually giving. So there is a huge demand of marketeers and commerce catalog companies to actually look at how do you replace the clutter with curation, and how do you bring the content in a way or form that actually allows the consumer to engage in an experience in a very different way. Movement marketing. I mean, less said the better. You clearly are actually in a space where you are with the consumer all the while. You are with him, you know his location, you're with him when he is in his bedroom, you're with him when he is in his toilet, you're with him when he's going to the office, you're with him at every such moment and occasion. How do you leverage that to get your message across? How do you actually engage in a process where the advertising is not take it or leave it kind of an affair, where advertising is, look, let me tell you this in this context, let me tell you this in this context, let me tell you this in this context, and evolve from there. One actually needs to move away from the notion that there is a slot and there is a creative. And the job is to take the creative and fit into that slot. Let's imagine the things slightly differently. Because there is a user behind that slot and the user behind that creative that is getting exposed to. How can one imagine that whole advertising actually is native? Whole advertising which basically talks to consumer in the context and environment they are in. Advertising which bakes into the realities that banner is actually dead. Advertising that talks about the video, the news feed, the content, carousel, icons, various different formats that can be embedded into the publisher properties just the way publisher cares about their content. How about editors become responsible for the advertising that goes into those properties? Because that's where really you're going to make the advertising user-centric. We've seen video. I mean, video is growing. Video is growing like a big thing. And clearly, let me give you this one example of a video campaign that we've seen perform very, very successfully. Instead of a 30-seconder, and by the way, this is my favorite story, Just when advertisers started to figure out how to do 15-second and 30 seconds on the mobile, Snapchat actually came and changed the game. They actually are now talking about 5-seconders, which, by the way, are only going to appear for one day, and then they're going to go away. And there are tons of money which is riding on that kind of creative. So clearly, you need to actually look at the video content, which is a continuum of the experience that you're looking to offer, and not a small version of the TV ad or a 30-seconder or a 15-seconder that you've created for any other media. The example on the left is the interactive continuum, where actually we have talked about, or we're talking about 10, 15 different videos of 5 seconds each one of which appears in front of a consumer, depending on what was the last one that he or she has seen. We're not talking about frequency capping here. We're not talking about rotation here. We're actually talking about sharing a story with the consumers that are split over 10, 15 such videos of 5 seconds each, so that you can actually grab the attention of the consumer and walk them through the overall journey, rather than forcing them to listen to a 30-seconder or any other long-form video that gets created generally in the other media properties. I think you would have seen this. A typical mobile movement marketing example was when you're talking about people that stand outside the movie theater, really trying to get into the movie with the freezing cold, and you have a message that comes to them which says, it's a 5 degrees Celsius, why don't you enjoy the movie in your own home? So clearly, we need to talk about how do you bring all of these content into a well-stitched experience that allows the marketing to work for the consumer, that allows advertising to be native to the consumer, that allows the advertising to be relevant for the consumer. And for the first time, let's start a revolution where consumer is really in the center. Consumer is not represented by a slot. Consumer is not represented by a creative that the agency gives you. Consumer is actually represented by what the consumer is and how you can plan a journey for him that he goes along on. My last slide, we're talking about the retail integration and discovery driving. I'm a big sold on mobile commerce. I think everyone in this room would believe that mobile commerce is huge. The 3 big things that I want to state on this room is A, one needs to talk about which mobile payment channels are you integrating and which loyalty programs are you integrating with your apps. Because if you're not caring about the payment channels, my example is Walmart. I mean, Walmart has a 5-step checkout process today in the PC world. A 5-step checkout process drops the conversion rate on mobile from roughly 10% if I compare it with Asia to about 0.1%. They are in the process of actually revising their entire checkout process as to how it should work. The reason why mobile, in my view, hasn't worked yet for the brand performance and the commerce is because people aren't yet focused on putting the experiences which are relevant for mobile. They're still trying to take the same experiences that work on PC and trying to bring those experiences onto the mobile, and it's not gonna work that way. Second, a lot of people are partnering with messaging apps to drive the purchase. Roughly 10 to 15% of all China mobile commerce happens from WeChat, happens within WeChat. From greetings to gifts to actual products to whatnot, you can actually go within that same environment and actually purchase. Is chat the new browser? Is chat the new environment where you can be exposed to anything and everything and you would engage, and that will be the property that you start with and that will be the property that you end with on a daily basis? The DAU to MAU ratio in chat is roughly 75%. And the publishers in the room would know that that's like amazing. If you have 75% of your monthly active users opening your property every day, you can build dramatically different businesses on it. So figure out how you can integrate chat into your commerce experiences. Last, link the discovery to purchase. Do not leave the consumer after having done the hard work of making him or her discover the product that they want. Figure out a way in which you can bring the entire checkout experience in a very seamless way and do not require the users to hop from one property to the other property in trying to fish for how to purchase. It's not just good user experience, it improves the whole return on investment by close to 50x. So clearly one need to look at what's the process of discovery, what's the process of engagement, what's the mobile payment that one is trying to use, and what's the experience to actually check out things within the whole mobile environment. With that, I'd love to conclude what I'm saying. Thank you.